justice for all.
We didn't have any orders back here, did we? Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Motion by Amanda, seconded by David. All in favor? You got Bo on the phone?
Not yet.
6-0. Very good. All right, consent agenda, just need a motion. Just remember if you need to abstain from anything. Now's the time to do it. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask. We can pull it out, ask, get your questions answered, whatever you need.
I'm gonna be dumb and ask, what's the audit proposal for? I mean,
We audit it every year,
just for tax liabilities and.
just everything.
Okay.
And then once a year, when the public, we audit it.
And this is our trades and associates that go on
That's correct. Yeah.
24, 25.
We'll get the
26.
results of those sometime usually around December, November, right in there.
Okay.
It'll start being audited for this past school year. Lisa does a lot of communication. She got a nice letter there that talked about how good she's done, going back and forth with them. They asked me a little bit, but Lisa handles a lot of that, just giving them records so that they can take a look at that, get full bills, or
Okay.
look through our stuff, make sure we're doing it right.
That's all I have.
Very good. Perfect.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So we got a motion by Ashley,
Second.
seconded by Derek. All in favor? 6-0, Amy. Now moving on into reports. Dr. Rod, you're up first.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody being here today. I'm generally not going to use a microphone like this, but because we're on Facebook and this is going to go out later, we have a lot of speakers here tonight. We want to make sure everybody can be heard, so I don't want to boom anybody and everybody think that I need to be like an MC or something and go karaoke style or anything like that, because that's not what I'm doing. So I'm going to talk about and give an overview of our finances and kind of give that wider view as we get to the end of the year. We've gone through a lot with the pandemic, but I came across this little piece that says, and I'll read it to you if you bear with me. In a democracy such as ours, the people are sovereign. It means they rule. All public institutions belong to them. They're operated by them through their representatives, which is your Board of Education in this case. The public school is one of the oldest and most cherished of these institutions. Since the school belongs to the people and is supported by them, it is inevitable that its welfare and progress should be determined largely by how people regard it. How they regard it is determined largely by what they know about it. So it's our obligation, therefore, as school officials and employees to take the people into our confidence, provide you with information which you desire, and I like this piece, to which you are entitled. In other words, school officials, school employees are obligated to perform a public relations function. Anybody want to take a guess for the classroom, since I got the old teacher in me? How long ago was that written? Come on, some brave student. Some brave. 1800s. Good guess, good guess. Anybody else? I always count on Jolene. She's that quick student. It was about 100 years ago that was written. And it was called School and Public Relations. It's an old book. I came across it through one of my networks. So 1937, a guy by the name of Ward Reader, and you don't hear about him anywhere, but I'm reading through his book, and there's just a lot of things that talk about, you know, the relationship between school boards, the relationship between school officials, the relationship between teachers and the community knowing and having good information. So almost 100 years ago, Becky, you recognize that place up there?
Yeah.
Tipton Times, right there in the corner. That's downtown, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that downtown where the furniture factory used to be? It looks like it.
No, it is second door from the corner of Short Street and Montauk.
So you guys had to move at some point. You went to a new building, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so our school district at a glance, some people don't know how many students we serve. It's roughly about 600 students. That hasn't changed for probably a decade and a half or more. We got about 79 employees. We got a little bit of part-time in there too. Approximately half of them are living in our district. We have 18 sports and activities offered, 3 on-site vocational programs. We have 9 off-site that people forget about because it's at State Fair through CTC. We have numerous dual credit and AP offerings coming up this next school year, and we offer some of them off and on. And I'm even kind of proud, and I kind of highlighted that one there because even one of our vocational programs offers some college credit as well. And that's through our ag program. Also, CTC in Sedalia is starting to offer college credit as well, so that vocational enterprise that's going on that we're shipping our kids back and forth on the bus to is also seeing some college credits being earned through those programs, which hasn't been seen before. And it all takes money. And money flows into a school, and money flows out. We don't bank a lot of it because there are decisions that need to be made. There's the direction of the school board, which is supposed to reflect what the community wants to see for their school. So since 2017, there have been 16 board members that have been serving on this board since I arrived. So 16 board members and trying to keep up with 7 different bosses and saying, hey, what do you want for the direction of the district? And you can see some of those names on there. And even Jolene Garber made it on there for 2 months, so she's on there too. And so she decided to come to work for us. So in 2017 and 18, I'm doing a little bit of history. That was a little while ago. But we had a new superintendent, a new junior high and high school principal, a new activities director part-time. We had a new junior high school counselor. We had a new board president. And we said, hey, let's take a look at our CSEP, or at least the board did, and said, let's see what we're doing, kind of starting from ground zero. We ended up looking at our literacy program. Kelly Kohler was working with that at that time. We had a project Lead the Way that kind of started. We began to work on the playground and look at something as a project need to be done. And they also talked to me about replacing or rebuilding central office. We adopted a new motto, just like Nike, just do it. You see that one, rebuild the future, and we're talking about building up kids. And I picked some photogenic kids there with the Coon Cooler Clan and some of our Project Lead the Way kids. So things were happening, building up kids. And the mission of our school district is to prepare our students for their futures by designing and sustaining a learning culture of excellence. And if you saw those first few slides, all those things that we provide for them, that's what we're trying to do, from activities all the way to dual credit, to vocationals, all the things that are in our school. I like this I think this is a win picture right here. The class of 2024, we actually clocked, and Coach Culpepper was chasing that down with the counselors and trying to figure out just what did they generate. And it was close to $1 million that they generated just in scholarships and opportunities coming right out of, people like to say, little old Tipton, but there's a lot getting done for these kids so they can compete on a much wider scale and not have to come from a big school. The board approved a new CSEP, a comprehensive school improvement plan, a lot of these things that I've talked to you about already, and we worked on those things and kind of reset culture a little bit. And the early Board of Education had some facilities goals. And you notice they were directives to the superintendent. And I'm going to say this in this group so everybody knows, the superintendent doesn't go get to sell large pieces of property. The superintendent doesn't get to go buy a new central office. The superintendent doesn't get to go spend millions and millions of dollars. The superintendent is directed by the board. And these are some of the things they directed me to do. And those things have been done. The school is not a bank. Even though we bring in a lot of money, we collect those taxes to spend on facilities, on kids, on a lot of things that are needed for a school system. But if we're collecting money, I had an old superintendent tell me this, one of my mentors, he said, if we're collecting money and not spending it on kids' needs, then we should send it back. We should stop collecting it. We should send it back to the taxpayer. But schools aren't here to go bankrupt either. So then we begin to talk about what's in what fund. And we want that arrow going through the bottom of the pile, and then we've got 0, 0, 0 in the bank. I think Lisa would kill me if that happened. So we did do some things to save some money. We changed our health insurance, which was a really good move because the year that we changed them, they started assessing all their members. That was MEUHP. We would have picked up an additional 14% raise to our health insurance cost, and they would have assessed us another $30,000. So just here, everybody pay 30 grand or how much per, they like to talk about per belly button that they cover. I don't understand that. But anyway, So we had no health insurance increase in 23 and 24. We joined a group called OSBA, and that's been a very good move for saving money and meeting our personnel's needs. We refinanced our debt that we had at the time in 2017-18. We saved $82,000 in interest. Then we refinanced again in 2021 and bundled those things and paid off some of our bonds so that we saved another $160,000. So about a $250,000 turnaround in refinancing a lot of our debt. Then we've raised the teacher base from 31,000 to 33,500. And from 2017 to now, it doesn't seem like it because we hear a lot about how much we pay for personnel and things need to go up, and I agree with that. But we increased our payroll per year about $500,000 for teachers alone. We also passed that bond issue. It took us 3 tries, but we got it done. And we eliminated a lot of the extra cost. We had about $80,000 to that point, just trying to keep those machines up. And those of you that have been in the elementary school probably didn't realize that thing was fixed or repaired weekly. Kelly Kohler can attest to that. And we had some undersized vent and duct work there that needed to be replaced, and it needed to be done right. And I just looked back at our last utility bill, comparing it from when we put it in to when the year we didn't have it in. We saved about $10,000 in 1 year just by putting in that new system. We upgraded all the K-12, the locks, the interior, the film on the glass. You've kind of seen some of that. I don't like to talk about it in detail because I don't want people that want to do us harm to have all that intimate knowledge of how they might bypass some of those systems. We're not a prison or anything like that, but we are a lot more hardened than we used to be. And we replaced old electrical boxes from the 50s. We replaced all the rooftop units and corrected that ductwork. And that's what we did with bond money. But the question I hear a lot is, what happened to all COVID money and why did Dr. Rob spend it all? Because it had to be spent by September of this year. And what we spent it on is we began displacing and spending it on salaries, benefits. We increased the pay to personnel that I just talked about. We spend it on technology and the infrastructure that comes with it, like this little thing in the ceiling, which is a Wi-Fi hub. Those are throughout your building now. We also put things they call biscuits and routers and all kinds of wiring. We upgraded all the category 6E cable throughout the building so people can access the internet. And we also got a lot of textbooks and online resources. And Lisa had a fun time because she had to do the claims after I handed them off to her from POs, and she loved managing those grants with me. She's nodding her head and not affirmation. Yes, thumbs up. We also had to get some cleaning supplies, so we began to stock up on those things that we knew would be those one-time purchases that were also eligible for us to use for that COVID money, with that COVID money. But we were able later on, when you get down to SR 2 and 3, that's got a long acronym to basically just talk about COVID money. If you say COVID money, everybody knows what we're talking about. But we use it to buy larger items. Everybody ever seen the Zamboni? Everybody calls it a Zamboni. Coach Culpepper likes to ride it and take care of the basketball court. Yes, he loves riding that thing. He's on it a lot, so he must love it. But we do about 100,000 square feet of floor space with that. Somebody can't actually physically mop that, guy, so you actually have to have that machine. And probably you'd be surprised to know it was about $6,000 for that machine. So there's a lot of costs that we were able to defer to keep our environment better and make it clean. There was a lot of money coming in ESSER, and at the beginning, a lot of it was tied to just cleaning and masks and all that other kinds of stuff. Later on, it kind of loosened up, but this money had to be spent by September of this year. And it was $2.2 million. So where's our money? How is it divided up? You have Fund 1, Fund 2, Fund 3, and Fund 4. You have operating, teachers, debt, and capital projects. So I'm going to talk a little bit about 1, 2, and 4. About 50% of that money comes from the state that goes in those funds. About 40% comes from our local taxpayers. And about 10% is coming from federal. Those are round numbers. They vary a little bit. And obviously, during the pandemic, that federal money inched up quite a bit and almost doubled because we were getting a lot of money coming in that we had to spend within a certain time frame. So how do we spend that money? If you look at it by percentage, and this is just looking at our budget that's a draft for this year, our personnel are chewing up the most of it because people cost money and bringing good people in do cost money. If you compare it to the state, it's 64%. Why the variance, Dr. Robinson? I don't understand. Because a lot of our personnel are also tied up in contracted services with things now, we have half of our custodial tied up in contract and services because after about 1.5 years, 2 years of not being able to keep people on and keep them steady, we decided that we need to keep our place clean, so we're going to try contracted services for our night custodians, and they're even working over the summer. We spend a little more in supplies on average for the state. This is the entire state right here on this side, a little over 500 schools and what their average is. And then there's our debt, there's what we spend on facilities, we're about 1/3 less than the average of the state, and this is what comes out of these funds that I just pointed out. We're not far off. If you compare this with another district that uses about the same contracted services, I bet you would find that it's pretty similar. But most of our expenses are coming from personnel. And there's the actual numbers on what's in this budget that I'll propose to the board tonight. The state adequacy target is what the state guarantees that we'll get per kid. It changed this year, so instead of another $250,000 in deficit spending, we're going to be looking at maybe $175 million in deficit spending. Now that's Fund 1 and 2 only, so that's operating and that's also the teacher's fund. Our operating levy is low when you compare it to other mid-Missouri schools, and we put a levy on the ballot in April. If our operating levy had passed, it was up to $1. We would have done some math, and I've done that math. Then if we had adjusted our levy by 30 cents in August, which is when we set our tax levy, it would have passed in April. It would have actually gone into effect where we could have adjusted it 30 cents, and we'd had close to a balanced budget going into this fiscal year. But we can't do that because the community did not allow us to do that. We have a CSIP goal, which this board set, along with a couple of members that are probably no longer here with us, but to pay teachers a competitive salary comparable with schools in the mid-Missouri area at or near our size. We may begin, well, I know we will begin, to see schools begin to outpace us that are near our size. I'll give you 2, for example. Cole Camp has put another 50 cents on their levy, and they did that last year. And recently, Eugene added 68 cents. Paying teachers competitive salaries is now a mandated by law challenge. So in 24-25, we don't have a mandate. We have the opportunity to claim a grant, which I'm going to suggest that the board do that. And that grant will move our teachers up to a minimum of $40,000. The difference between our base right now, which is $33,500 to $40,000. Some teachers a little higher than $33,500. They'll also get that to bring them up to $40,000. That's just for this fiscal year. In 25-26, it'll be $40,000 again, but then a master's plus 10 will go to $46,000 with an unknown level of support. Then it'll change again. It'll go to $47,000 for a master's plus 10 years with an unknown level of support. Then 27-28, it says no new mandate, but it is a new mandate. I should have taken that no out. I was copying and pasting some of these slides. But it is a new mandate. It's $40,000 still, and it goes to $48,000. And this is the one that'll really kick us hard, is when the 28-29 school year new mandate comes around. It's 3% up to 3% increase per year on that $40,000 and that $48,000. So if they did that, it would be about an $80,000 turnaround in the 28-29 school year. And we're still sitting at one of the lowest operating levies in mid-Missouri in this area of our like-sized schools. So that's going to be a big challenge. So where's our money? How much do we have in the bank? We look at Fund 1 and Fund 2. So I color-coded these a little bit. And this goes all the way back to 2000. And then goes all the way to 28-29. If you look right here, let's see who's smart. Jolene, it can't be you every time. So 2006 to 2008, does anybody know what those red bars? These bars represent the percentage of fund balance. So Fund 1 and 2, you're sitting on some money to back you up. It's kind of like a rainy day fund. Maybe a few million. It's going to be, about 3 million for us, right at it. But that percentage represents how long you could operate into a school year and make nothing. That's an easy way to think about it. So if you have 40%, you could operate 40% of the year and have nothing coming in. So you're shored up. So if we go all the way back to 2000, 2001, we're not even at 20%, and we kind of edged up. Then all of a sudden something happened about 2006 to 2008. Anybody know what that is? I figured my news hound might. That was an economic recession. And President Obama took over, George W. Bush was coming out, and we had an economic recession, and then it triggered this drop. And so that's why you keep a fund balance, so you can still operate. You never know when an economic recession is coming. Just watch the news, right? They're telling you the sky is falling every day, but you don't know until it actually happens. Then I want you to take a look as these green bars go up, how many years it took to edge toward 30%. When they're not even there in 2013-14, and we're all the way back 7. You're looking at almost a decade that it took to build that fund back up. Then, about the time I arrived, right in this area right here, we were doing just fine. And we were budgeting, and I saw it going up. I remember this year, 17-18. I said, we can give some back to the teachers, and so you saw a little dip. And we kind of gave them a little bit more right in here. And everything was going just fine, but then all of a sudden the pandemic hit. And then you see this steep rise right here in our fund balance. That was when all the ESSER money was coming in, and that's when the federal money was coming in. And now we're on the back side of it. Okay, we're at 23, 24. So if everything holds true, this is 24, 25, that nice purple bar, we may end up around 30%, but you can see already, because what happened here with this money, remember where it all went? We were paying teachers in some extent. That wasn't the advice of a lot of organizations statewide, is to start paying people off one-time money, that one-time federal money. But a lot of districts did it, and it made it very difficult to recruit people, so we did a little bit of it. We did a little bit of it, but not a lot. But we're already going down because we did make a big change to our salary schedule, because the grants that have been coming out have been only affecting people who were below 38,000. We gave that to them, but then immediately the people who aren't affected, people who are above 38,000, said, hey, what about me? I've been here for 10, 12, 15 years. I'd like to stay. So the board did make a decision last spring, about May, to go ahead and pay those people. So now we're seeing that start to drop off. Now, this is the arrow with a question mark. Do we keep trailing down? That's 5% a year with no new money coming in. So salaries are going to be a difficult problem for us as we look at it and say, where is the money coming from? The big question mark is, what's the state going to do? How much are they going to help a district like ours, if at all? And that's why we asked with the April levy issue, said, we may need up to $1, we may need less. It turned out it was less because the state came through for us. But we need people to listen to that, because we could end up in financial problems very quickly, just in a few years. So what about debt service? I think that's what a lot of people are concerned about and wondering about. Schools go in debt. So I'm going to answer some common questions about school debt, and talking to people in the community, and questions that I hear is, why is a school in debt? Well, because we have a low operating levy, we're one of those school districts that have to go in debt like a person who is lower middle class and has to put a roof on their house, but they only have $5,000 in the bank and they need 20. So they'll go get a home equity loan and they'll do the big maintenance projects, just like an individual will. A school will do the same thing, but they'll issue bonds. So we take out debt for large projects that are approved by voters. So we can issue bonds, and we actually put bids out for these. And we can borrow up to 15%, there's another word, of our assessed valuation. This is the value, $59 million, of all the property in our school district. So 15% of that we can borrow. That's $8.9 million right now. These are brand new, just 2 days old statistics with our municipal advisor I was working with yesterday, or day before yesterday. So this is how much we currently owe, is $4.6. Our net capacity is 4.2. In our tax levy, it's 4.01, $4.01. $1.08 of that pays this debt. This is going to be news to everybody when I say it. I'm going to go ahead and say it. You can bond almost all that amount and not raise your tax levy. There's a few reasons for that. Because we've refinanced a lot of that debt. We've paid off some of that debt. And we have a nice, healthy debt service levy of $1.08. Not every district has that. I'll let that sink in for a minute. We are paying taxes. About 25% of what we pay in is going toward debt. So if we maintain it and say, here's what we want to see happen, you could almost get the full amount. But, and that's a big but, you can't have anything major come up like you got to put a new roof on. And we do need to start looking at our roofs in 2027, some of them coming up, and the board looked at the facilities plan that we reviewed together last time. How much are those roofs going to cost? I don't know. I don't know. But you have to keep a roof over your head in your own home, just like you do in school. So that would be my concern. Since we've taken care of the HVAC, what else do we do? We shouldn't, I'll just tell you, we should not bond all that amount and lock ourselves out of being able to do big maintenance projects completely. When would all our debts be paid off? That depends on our tax collection rate. If it's going well, we'll be fine. And it depends on any changes to our assessed valuation. So ask one of the 3 assessors what that's going to look like. We will not know until the end of July, early August, exactly what that looks like. We've been going up about 1% to 2% every year, so that helps. We could pay off all of our current debt as early as 2036 and as late as 2042. That's our current debt. So I get asked this question a lot, and I ran the numbers with the municipal advisor just a couple days ago, so we know. Does the tax rate go down if the bonds are paid off? Well, you can't collect $1.08 if you don't have any debt. So yeah, it would go down because you can't collect money if you have no debt. However, because our operating levy is low, we also don't have the ability to save money back to fix things. So we'd still eventually have to come back to the voters and say, hey, we got a couple roofs falling in over here. We need about, $900,000 so we can fix the roofs on the main high school area. We're still going to have to come back because we don't levy a lot on a regular basis, so we can't save any money back. And the board prioritized our HVAC for a reason. We couldn't afford it otherwise. Then we have a perfect storm when we talk about personnel. Nice big tsunami. I want to talk about this a little bit. If teachers leave, then something must be wrong. Let me tell you what's wrong. There are some things that negatively affect the profession of teaching. One is a pandemic. You can talk to any teacher and talk about the radical change to their job conditions that went across the entire nation. And they will tell you it was not fun. Teachers, go ahead and nod your head with me. It was not fun, because it wasn't fun for me either. You can talk about economic inflation where you don't know what's going to cost when you go to the grocery store or anywhere else, and your wages, all of a sudden, you're making a teacher's salary and your wages are now worth a lot less. Everybody should be doing this, right? Because everybody was. Then you had a lot of retirements, people with health concerns. They put out a survey right about the time of the pandemic because we were worried bringing people back who had health concerns. 40% of our staff indicated they had some significant health concerns, and they were concerned about coming back in during the pandemic. All right? So you had a lot of people retire. They had had enough. We even had some deaths associated with our district. We had some state neglect. You don't make it to the bottom of average teacher salary just on a fluke. It's by design. It's because the state got away with it. So you had that. And you had fewer teachers in teaching programs. So people are looking at teaching as not a very great profession to go into. So why do we lose teachers? You can also look at their connection here and say 50% live outside the district. They commute. They have looser ties to Tipton. They have other opportunities. Many surrounding schools have higher wages and more ability to pay those higher wages. There was a statewide shortage of educators, so much so, there was a blue ribbon panel the last 2 years in Jefferson City on retention and recruitment. And Missouri being the lowest, or next to the lowest in the nation on average teacher pay didn't help. Teachers have financial goals. We are not typically the last stop for teachers to retire. The final 3 years figure into their retirement. They take that average and they come out with a number. Those final 3 years matter. So it's a statewide problem. It's a statewide problem. It's a frustration problem for teachers, and I don't blame them. I talked to Paul Catnett, the DESE Assistant Commissioner of Education Quality, and he gave these numbers. And if you look at teacher retention, you can see how these numbers are sliding down. That red number on the top is tenured teachers. You can see it sliding down over just a few years. That's from 2017 to 2022-23. This is statewide. Then you look at all teachers, that blue line, it's also sliding down. You're losing anywhere from about 5, I think, to 7%. This next line down is your non-tenured teachers, and you can see how far those non-tenured teachers came down. They were starting somewhere around 80%, and I think that number is 73. It's covered up a little bit, or 74, somewhere in there. If you look at the slide, that's in district. In district. This is what's happening statewide. Then you look at people who are beginning to prepare to be educators. This blue line is hopeful, because you see more kids finally starting to get into these programs. Then you look down here, and you see how many people are actually completing those programs. So 200 or so less. It went up to about 3,600. Now it's at 3,200, and this is statewide as well. These are in-prep profession teacher retention. So that means a teacher who remains a teacher in Missouri in a public school for 1 year, regardless of what the next district is. So your retention level is somewhere around 92% for your tenured teachers, and you can see it sliding off into the 80s. Everything's sliding down, with this brown one right here being non-tenured teachers. Non-tenured teachers, you can see how that steeply slopes down. And then finally, in the bottom line, first-year teachers. They're also sliding down. People are not staying in the profession. Statewide. Then you look at the hiring rates. The line that stands out the most to me that I'll point out is the total new hires. So back in 17-18, there were 7,600 teachers that were hired statewide. 22-23, there were 10,000. So there's a lot of movement going on. Then you look at your first-year teacher retention rate. Up there, started on the 4th year in the same district, not too bad, but you're also seeing a slide when you're looking starting the 6th year in the district when they started their tenure, so 39% to 33%. These are statewide figures. So there's your summation. You can finally get Dr. Rob off the microphone. Our operating levy at 293 is too low to keep up with salary mandates in the near future and balance the budget. We should expect to continue to deficit spend. We have about $4.2 million in bonding capacity. Since we've refinanced and paid off some of our bonds, seen some modest increases in our assessed valuation, we could bond up to the maximum with no tax increase, but we need to have no other facility needs if you do that. Competition for teachers is going to continue to remain fierce, and since we're a small school, we really need to look at what we're offering when teachers when they come in, and when you're looking at salaries. Summation, if you want to remain solvent, if we as a district want to remain solvent, as you see that curve that I think is going to keep trending down, we need to grow our school. I think Coach Duke will say something to you about that as well. We need to attract families with kids. We need to increase enrollment. We're paid on the number of students we serve, and that helps. If we're a little bit stuffed for a little bit, that's a good problem to have, because that means there are people here that are building homes. There are people here that are rehabbing homes. There are people here that are saying, hey, we need some more classroom space. We're going to vote for a bond, or we're going to increase the assessed valuation because we're actually increasing the value of homes in this town. There are no significant cuts we can make to our operations other than reduction of personnel and programs. Here's some things we've lost, and that's not all of them. We lost an elementary teacher last year, one special education teacher this year. We shut down the FACS program and that teacher. We went down a half a counselor going into next year, and our activities director is now part-time. We're continuing to look for ways to lean down, and we continue to lean down. Well, that's all I've got to say, and I don't mean it to be a big bummer, because I still think we can do a lot of great things. And if you look on that wall there, if you look on the walls around our school, there are a lot of great things going on, guys. This is a great community, and that's why I stayed. That's why I'm here, because I think this is a great place to serve kids. And I think that's important. And I think a lot of people standing here tonight, I didn't try to do a captured audience, and I didn't try to go too long, but I think you need to know, as you go back to the first slide, you're entitled to it. And I hope that anyone that ever has any concerns about anything will feel like, hey, I'm just going to go call Dr. Rob and ask him. Let me find out. Because I go back to this last line, you know, it's our obligation is to take you into our confidence and give you true information. Give you the information you're entitled to. So if you have any questions about this presentation or anything else, please give me a call or stop by central office. We love visitors, don't we, Lisa? We have candy. We have drinks in our fridge. We do. People come see me occasionally. All right, Coach Duke, you are next.
Did you guys have any questions for me?
Yep.
Football coaches don't usually use microphones. So I told Dr. Rob I wasn't going to use a microphone. He goes, I think you have to. I may set it down from time to time because sometimes we get very, very passionate about speaking about this. But Dr. Rob, members of the board, I appreciate you giving us some time to talk about this today. In our eyes, it's extremely important. 3 years ago, I sat there asking for a chance, and you took a chance. And since then, I may not be from Tipton, but it is absolutely my home, and I value this place tremendously. So now we're going to talk to you about what we feel that not only the school district, but the community, most importantly, the students that are here deserve, wholeheartedly deserve, without question or hesitation. As one person told us in the meeting, the time to win is now. When speaking with Coach Culpepper the other day, Tipton has had incredible success over the years, but this may be absolutely the best time to be a Tipton Cardinal with the success that's happening in curricular activities, extracurricular activities, and co-curricular activities. And we want to highlight that. So what are our challenges? I think it's very clear that our facilities are overcrowded and overbooked. From 3:30 to 9 p.m. every day, that school is being used by some organization, sport, committee, group, in some way, shape, or form. There are unreasonable practice times necessary for facility use. Let's be honest, parents, do you want to take your children to school at 5:30 in the morning, knowing that you may have to go pick them up to bring them back home, to get them breakfast, help them finish their homework, get prepared for school? This is not a new problem. When speaking to some alumni from the mid-90s, they too were in the gym at 5:30 in the morning. Speaking to more alumni in the early 2000s, they too were in the gym at 5:30 in the morning. This is not something new that's happening. This is something that's been going on. Bad weather forces inside practice. Our current spaces are extremely too small. They're unsafe, and they don't allow for proper training. We're going to get to it later, but one of the beautiful things that's happening Wednesday mornings, Friday mornings, and Sunday nights when we have boys and girls coming to lift weights, we have over 60 athletes in that room at one time. On Sunday, we had mid-60s, and that will grow because some kids were at work, some kids were on vacation. That will continue to grow. We know the challenges of the space, but we're going to cover them a little bit more. This map is directly from the Missouri Association of School Administrators. You can see that there are 8 districts in the state, okay? We are in District 3. Many term it as the heart of Missouri. But we compete routinely against 5 other districts. 5 other districts in the state. These are group-wide districts, not just a singular district, that have the facilities we're talking about and are preparing to build those facilities. Some already passed on bond issues, some are in construction, and some are about to go onto the bond issue. Just remember that map. But let's dial it down. Let's look at our conference, just in football. In 2023, and soon to be in 2024, every opponent had more facility options than we provide Tipton, regardless of their enrollment. Not everybody we play is bigger than us. It soon will be. But not everybody we play is larger. Many are smaller and have more options. In basketball, every conference school that we're going to, except Fayette, has 2 full-size gyms. 2 full-size gyms. On the previous map, there are 10 plus school districts in mid-Missouri of all sizes that have these. They would solve our problems or greatly ease our problems. That is not speculation, that's truth, that's fact. You can go and tour these facilities if you like. Lone Jack, Versailles, Harrisburg, California, Bell. In case you haven't seen some of the social media lately, Bell, a school that's smaller than ours, is building this facility with 2 full-size basketball courts, a full indoor baseball field, multiple batting cages. They don't have as many programs as we have. They do not have as many sports as we have, but they've made a commitment to their community and to their students and to their athletes that they will provide them with things to carry them forward. We need to attract more families and students. We reported, unless I'm wrong, Coach Culpepper, and you can correct me, we reported the lowest number to miss in the last 10 plus years. Let that sink in. The lowest number. But yet, and I'll brag about football a little bit, we have 40% of the boys in the school playing football. My nephew plays at Lindbergh. They have around 12% of the boys in that school playing football. 40%. But when I show you a number later, that 90% of our students are involved in some form of extracurricular activity, it seems like a no-brainer to me that we should support that and help that grow. That bottom link, I'll share this with you if you want. You can hit that link, it'll take you to this beautiful facility they've already built in Eldon. 100 by 140, turf, heating and air conditioning, lined fully for band, football, track has mats in there. They are supporting their students in the right way, in my opinion. That third bullet point, I want to focus on for just a second. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to speak to a lobbyist here in Missouri. Can't tell you his name. But after we got done visiting, I said, I have a question for you. You continue to raise teacher salaries with no guarantee or commitment to support that for small school districts. What is your plan when the delta becomes too large? And without missing a beat, he said consolidation. Their plan is for schools to consolidate. 2 days ago, I was meeting with the campaign manager for one of the gubernatorial candidates. I asked him the same question. Not the same guy, by the way. Same question. What is the plan? Are you going to encourage schools to consolidate? His answer, very quickly, we will not mandate from the top down, but we do expect schools to do whatever they have to do to survive. Cut programs, consolidation. That's in their educational plan. That is in their educational plan. I have no desire to wear a different color. And I would say that color right there. So what do we need? A full-size basketball and volleyball court. A place where we can train appropriately. I told you there's 60 plus athletes in the weight room. It's too small, it's unsafe. And I, for one, am not going to tell people they can't come. In fact, I'm on my phone daily encouraging more student athletes to show up. A large indoor turf section for band, dedicated time so that they can march and practice marching when the weather conditions don't permit. Batting cages. Currently, the baseball team is in the elementary gym hitting baseball. The softball team is there too. Those walls are the same color as the baseball. I encourage anybody to go in there and see how hard it is to catch a baseball in that gym. Hitting balls off the elementary gym floor is not, even with a little mat, is not appropriate. The floor's not going to last. Place for archery, cheer training, wrestling, and storage. Last year, the board had the opportunity to tour the grounds. Many of you got to see the dilapidated sheds that we store stuff in. It's not a football discussion, but I can tell you right now, I fixed our football shed myself a few times. There's only half a floor in the shed. It's not appropriate, it's not safe. I'm not sending student athletes and players in there to grab equipment. but there's nowhere else to store it. Many of the coaches here will store stuff at their homes because there's nowhere to put that. You will double up routinely. What else? Updated bathrooms. I'm sure we could just raise hands if you wanted to. Who does not want to use the bathrooms that we currently have in a number of locations on the complex and in the district? And gathering area for clubs and activities. This type of building will support any of those programs that Dr. Rob already mentioned. I had no idea he was going to mention it, but I appreciate you do, because it absolutely will happen. So what is our plan? A 100 by 160 building, 16,000 square feet, a full-size basketball court, prepped for volleyball, a large indoor turf area, a weight room, plenty of storage, a loft, a place for archery, a place for band, a place for cheer, a place for wrestling, a place for clubs and organizations to meet, a place for ag to use their Aggie days, a place for any activity you can think of to have acceptable space to use on a regular basis to prepare appropriately. How would the community benefit? TRA, other travel teams that need space. I've heard from multiple people throughout this process, they have thought about building something like this on their own because they recognize the need. I'm sure some of you in here have. So how do we get there? There's already been a very generous donation by the Fisher family. Has a timeline. That timeline is quickly approaching. As of today, the Cardinal Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping and assisting the students of the Tipton School District. And lastly, the school. Why? Multiple revenue streams help ease the burden on one particular club, organization, member-managed organization, whatever you want to call it. It eases the burden on district and taxpayers. It also shows the level of support that I see on a daily basis in Tipton. This is an extremely generous community, extremely generous. So what are some of our truths? Our neighboring school districts and competitors already provide these facilities to students. That's not debatable, they're already there. We could take advantage of unused space on the campus where parking is already available. I was told that potentially it used to be called the Morlock property. Did I get that correct, Coach? I don't know my complete Tipton history. I wouldn't have known where that building was back then. This location would limit construction interference during the school day. We can all agree that our facilities need help. I can turn this way and you can ask any of those young men and women that showed up if they agree. Just the fact that they took time out of their night to show up here, I think, would tell you that it agrees. 90% of our students are in extra and co-curricular activities. Take out ag, it's still over 80%. Those numbers aren't debatable. If this many students want to be involved in so many things, you're doing something right. You need to feed that. The time to win is now, like we said on the first slide. So what are we as a nonprofit in a community that have gathered together, what are we asking for? In November, only 4/7 is required to pass a bond issue. That's going to get increasingly harder in the next couple of years. But in November, you have an opportunity, 4/7. So somebody have the courage, call for an action item, ask your questions, but vote to put it on the ballot in November. Your last filing date is August 27th. If you wait until April, you will use a year of the Fisher money, to my understanding, because there's a timeline on it. And that would not be prudent, in my opinion, and the opinion of others. The truth is, a year after this is built, people won't remember what it used to be like. They'll be so happy with what they have and want to take care of it. Sweep up after they use the floor. Put your weights away. put things back. Take care of the storage, take care of the bathrooms. This will become the new standard. In a town that's extremely generous, in a town with 90% of your students participating in something, I think they deserve it. Our goal as parents is to leave the next generation better, or as I like to say, leave it better than you found it. We've had the same problem for over 2 decades. That problem's not gonna go away unless we invest in the future and build it. I appreciate you. If you have any questions, please ask.
I've got a question. I don't know where the hell this Morlock building is.
More like property?
Yeah.
Straight
Property.
east to the football parking lot.
Oh, it's on the hill.
It's just down from the practice field, sir. Yes, sir.
It's east of the practice field.
Yes, sir. Well,
That blocks my parking area when I come to games.
no,
Up on the hill,
Faces Randolph Street.
facing, you go past the asphalt parking lot, and that next property and the grass on the right, up on, kind of on the hill, on the
Yeah,
hill.
toward Ronnie Long's house.
No.
No,
No,
toward the south.
other,
North.
behind the bleachers.
Allowance.
Okay, that doesn't block my parking then.
Hey, Coach,
no, sir.
do you mind going back to your last one, you had the layout of it, and kind of explain to me what you got laid out right there?
Sure. Full basketball and volleyball court. This is a large turf area. I believe that's almost 80 feet, it's like 77, 8 that way. The weight room, same depth. Weight room, 40 feet. The other one, 60 or so. There would be a loft area, at least in this area, if not expanding over. In this drawing, the sidewalls are 22 feet, which would give you enough room for a lower level plus an upper level with a loft, so that we're not storing stuff at home. Archery could have an easy place to get their stuff, come down and shoot. Right? This area of turf would be lined so that band could march. Football could go in there if the weather was bad. We don't usually move for weather, do we, boys? No. No, we don't. But it is possible.
And you say for the use of wrestling, is wrestling gonna have like the option to leave their mats, or they're gonna have to roll them up every night, or is that gonna be something just kind of figured out later?
That's a fair question. And because the winter time is very busy with everyone, this turf area would allow them more than ample space to put a mat down. If you're gonna come back the next morning, maybe leave it till the next morning, but it would not be in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
I have my own personal feelings about that. I think maybe you can hear that, but it would not be in the cafeteria, right? It would be a place for everyone.
You would still have overlap with like archery possibly, so like, hey, archery's practicing Tuesday, you need to roll the mats up on Tuesday, you know, something to that extent. Because even though you build this, you still are gonna have more, you know, sports and activities than you do gym space, so you're still gonna have to share. But, you know, you actually have a home that's not a cafeteria after 31 years.
Correct.
Coach,
Yes, ma'am.
does that basketball court have, seating area? Are there bleachers on either side?
We have talked about potentially having bleachers on one side, depending on what you want to do with the building. Right now, this is 100 by 160. And obviously, we would like to use every bit of that space as possible. If the building needed certain bleachers and whatnot, and you needed to lengthen the building, that would be okay. But the property we're suggesting allows for expansion. It allows to grow. It allows for a place that we could take some very, very expensive football equipment and store it in a weather-protected area.
So are we going into this, before we start building, are we gonna decide how big, you know, somebody decides that we need bleachers on both sides? Are we gonna go in there and add to the building then? prior to, or are we gonna have to try to redo it
Well, I
in
think
mid-construction?
that's somebody's the Board of Education.
Oh,
I mean, obviously the board would consult with him and his committee,
okay.
but if the board says it needs to be 180 by 240, then that's what it is.
And on a side note, which we didn't mention, I was waiting for the question, but I'm gonna give it. That nonprofit committee is committed to raising the same amount of money that the Fisher family so generously donated. And without even going out into the community and people just seeing it on a couple of simple Facebook posts, over 10% of that money has already been pledged. Not a single person has been asked for money, but they were so strongly moved by it, they called and offered money. So when you double that Fisher money, and then don't take away all of your bonding capacity, you have the ability to have multiple revenue streams, lessen the burden.
What's your estimated cost?
Fair question. Talking to,
Do it like two parts, do like a shell, like
Sure.
you and I visited about, and then your add-ons.
right. Let's start with the full picture, right? I think you could reasonably say somewhere between $150 to $200 a square foot. This is not a bricked building, this is a metal building. So the nicer you wanna make the outside, the more it costs, right?
Oh, well.
When speaking with a local construction person, he thought it would be, who is well respected, he thought 200 would absolutely get you there, but maybe it's a little bit cheaper. But that cost is obviously offset by the amount of money that's donated. Right? A shell itself, just the shell, nothing in it. Well, that depends on who builds it. Right? I can tell you that if somebody was building this on their property, it would be far less than if you're building it on a piece of school property, right? But that shell itself would be, if the person who gave us these plans bid on it, would be about $400,000. That doesn't include concrete or excavation. That's just the building and to put it up.
Your blueprint there.
Yep.
A couple slides ago, we were talking about restrooms. I don't see any restrooms. What's the reasoning behind that?
There would be restrooms in there. They would potentially be located in that area on the first iteration of the drawing. There was some talk about putting restrooms on the outside. This is not my area of expertise to draw these, so that those restrooms on the outside of the building would be useful for people who are at outdoor activities, like a football game, to go there and use them. I'm not gonna single anybody out, but I'm absolutely willing to say nobody wants to use the restrooms we have at the football field. And if somebody disagrees, you can raise your hand. That's what I thought. You can't, guys, they just don't work. They're not big enough. They're not designed properly. The fixtures aren't proper, they don't work, they have to be fixed. That's not me, the football coach, telling you this is me telling you who has family members who use those restrooms.
So should this be agreed upon, then what do we do with the old facilities?
Yeah, the current field house could be repurposed very easily, help take care of some of those storage issues. As you see in this building, there's nothing football specific, so our locker room's gotta stay somewhere. But it would allow us to have more room for storage, absolutely 100%.
What's total cost? HVAC, bathrooms, excavation, shell, floor, turf, goals, you name it.
If you go to $200 a square foot at 16,000, 3.2 million. Take away 300,000 in donation from the Fisher family, a commitment from a nonprofit, and now you're around 2.5, 2.6, somewhere in that neighborhood, which is far below the current bonding capacity and still leaves money in case something does happen. And it's my belief, and the belief of a lot of other people through probably 60 hours of one-on-one conversations with people in this community, that we would bring people to our community when we show them the investment in our facilities. We are not growing. It's the lowest numbers. 10 plus years. That's not debatable.
I just see a major problem in going to the district to get them to vote to spend money on this. Even though we would have this money in hand to go out into the community and get them to pass a bond for this, I don't think it'll fly.
With the greatest deal of respect, I disagree. And the fact that all.
Come down to the coffee shop.
Absolutely. Anytime. Anytime.
I'll be there in the morning.
Coach,
Yeah.
what is, with the nonprofit pledging, you know, and the Fisher Foundation money, I guess my question is, the nonprofit have any problem with the Fisher name going on it? There's not gonna be a conflict of interest?
I would say no.
I mean, I don't know the nonprofit.
And I would venture to say, unless somebody comes in and says, I want to give more money than that, with the caveat that I would like my name on the building.
Give me the winning Powerball numbers and I'll do that.
Again, happily I would if I had them. Yeah. So
But you don't see a conflict,
I
right?
don't see one conflict whatsoever. The same way I don't see a conflict that if someone or an organization says, we would like to have the naming rights of the basketball court, and we would like to pay for the basketball court to be installed, and the hardwood, and the lining, and all of those things that go with it. I don't see a conflict why there wouldn't be the blank blank basketball or gymnasium on the wall. Just have to repeat it.
4.2. Can you hear me?
With respect to the potential difficulty in the community, if you're gonna make an error, you should make it on the side of the kids.
Well, I'm not begrudging the kids anything and everything. My biggest deal when I ran for school board was education first. And I'm not against sports. I love sports. I played sports when I was in high school, way back when. But, the education, spending money on the teachers, I mean, we couldn't get them to pass a tax levy for teacher salaries. And I think they're gonna throw it in our face pretty hard if we would say, yep, we're gonna do this and try to pass a bond.
And the only way to know this is to give them the option to say that.
Well, you know, I'm not against putting it, you know, it's just us committing to doing this. If we've got the money in hand, fine. If you can show us how to pay for it and the money is there, I'm not against this. But betting on the come, I can't do that.
I think they showed up.
Well, I mean, that, you know, these young men, you know, put out their all out there on the field. I understand that, and I'm proud of them. But I want them educated. I don't want them.
It's also a classroom, sir. Gym class, band, those are classes.
I understand that. I
required
understand
to
that.
be in
I'm just telling you what some of the feelings are in the community.
And I appreciate that.
You know, and they have kicked it in my face hard that they will not vote for a football field or a sports complex. And that may be a few grumpy old souls like me, I don't know, but, you know,
But as you said, this would be something that, you know, if it could be paid for, you would support.
I'm not against it.
There you go.
If we can, I mean, if they can show me, here's the money, and we're not gonna be going, oh my gosh, they didn't pass that bond issue, so now what are we gonna do?
I think there's a lot of preparation that goes before that.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's gonna be a hell of a lot of preparation.
But there's not a lot of time.
So
I understand
so who's overseeing this project?
In what respect? In the nonprofit or the building itself?
Like getting the word out about
The
it?
building itself.
I guess it'd be us, wouldn't it?
The building
So
itself
what?
has a few options. Either the school enlists the architect that it has, it's used in the past, or it puts out an RFP for other companies who would be more than happy to build this and to take care of architectural design, take care of building, take care of helping publicize. There are companies that do that all across the state. Some have even reached out to me, and I am happy to help in any way, shape, or form. Not on Friday night.
Okay, boys, you gonna hate me if I say no?
Coach, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Is this something that could maybe be, you know, and I'm not saying it would have to be, I'm just looking at all of our options, trying to look, but is this something that we could maybe do in like sectional projects, you know, get the shell up and then, towards the basketball goal, or the basketball court, or is this something that kind of needs to go, in your opinion?
In my opinion, the answer is you do it all at once. Because the cost that is now isn't the cost that is in a couple of years. Let's take the football field, for example. Whatever that bonding capacity that we were talking about, which cost we were talking about 2 years ago, that field costs more now. That's just, so we would be using more dollars to build the same outcome if we decide to do it in sectional format. Agree?
Now, boys, I didn't say I was gonna say no, but I just asked the question, if. There's my name right there.
Well, I mean, if nobody has anything else, thank you.
I asked a question, has anybody looked into what the maintenance cost of this building would be in the next 10 years? Because that's something that hasn't been talked about. When you put up a building that it's gonna need to be maintained and the cost of keeping it up. And where's that money gonna go? Because that's gonna go right onto the school board's budget, right?
I can't.
Something that I was kind of wondering.
I appreciate the question, and there's no way for me to tell you what it would cost in 10 years. What I can tell you is that people will take pride and help clean that area up so it lessens the overall responsibility of the maintenance department. But you still have costs for electricity and water. You still have those costs. Those are not going to change. But when thinking about this today and thinking about the potential questions that I could get, this question came to my head. And the only answer I came up with is the cost is far less than what it will cost us if we continue to lose students and families or if we consolidate. That cost to maintain it, in my mind, while it's true, it's tangible, it's a line item, it's irrelevant. If 5 years from now, we're not reporting 143 or 145, we're reporting 90 to Misha. That's my answer.
And the board, do you guys got anything else? Just food for thought for sure. I mean, I've been sitting here for quite a while. I don't want to jump and make a hasty decision and wind up with another gym that you can't use, which you currently have. I agree with your statement, it's a one-time shot. If you're gonna do it one time and do it right.
Correct.
So, in my mind, does it need to be bigger? once you go 100 by 160, you're done.
But you can add on.
Well, you can,
Yeah.
but 10 years down the road, your cost is, or 2 years down the road.
But this size building does solve a lot of problems that have been present for decades. And it serves the greatest number of students. You're right, a football field did not serve this many students. A track did not serve this many students. This does.
No, I agree.
This does.
I agree wholeheartedly.
So if you want to have the greatest impact on the greatest number of people with the dollars that you spend, this does it.
You buying coffee in the morning?
Can I have a rain check? I'm actually gonna be out of town in the morning.
That's no excuse. Give me your checkbook.
I can buy you coffee tonight when we're done.
Anybody else have anything?
No,
Dinner too.
I'm done arguing with you.
Perfect.
No
All right,
offense,
thanks,
sir, but-
Coach. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Whoops, that's yours.
Goodbye, boys, thanks for coming.
So most of you know me, those that don't, I'm Nan Bowles. I've been in the district as a bus driver for 25 plus years. So when Dr. Rob posted this on Facebook and on the website, I reached out because I had several families concerned about the kids on the bus, eating on the bus, and when we're feeding most of them between 10 and 11 o'clock. They're at school, we let them out at 3:10, they load the bus, they have an hour, some of them, ride home. Some parents aren't home when they get home, so they're waiting for mom and dad to get home to eat. So we're talking a very large span there that our kids are not eating. So I've worked the summer food program in Sedalia for 5-7 years, and I know that the program is available, but that's up to the school district to be able to sponsor, to be able to bring after-school snacks in, and those snacks have to be fed at the school before they get on the bus in order for us to have this program. So I spoke with the lady at Montauk County, and she said that the school district itself has to be at 50% or more that the children are at free and reduced lunches before this program will even work. So aside from having a sponsor, which I would like the school to sponsor, but these are our kids, and all these meetings are always about our kids, then that's what I'm thinking about. I put a lot of years in on these buses, a lot of years into these kids, and I think we need to do this for the kids. Unless you want to move your lunches until 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I don't think that's going to fly either. So I'm asking that you sponsor the food program to be able to bring the after-school snacks into the school. And that is from your kindergarten all the way up to 18. It's not just our elementary, it's all the way up high school too. So I've got the lady's information. There was a application that was started and never finished. And I've got her name, I've got her email, and I can forward that to whoever, but the application was never finished. Why, I don't know, and I didn't have those answers for her. So it has been an issue in the school before, that someone brought that to their attention, but nobody ever followed up with it. And I would like to follow up for it for the kids. So that lies on the application. I need to present a sponsor to them, and then I need to have the data that shows that we are at 50% or higher that are free and reduced lunches. So,
Have you got a number of what the sponsorship that you're asking us to do? Have you got a dollar number of
That would be-
estimation?
dollar number meaning per meal,
Well,
because these are just snacks.
yeah,
And they are at a higher cost, yes, than what a full meal would be. And that's the only information that she's given me, because again, I don't have the data to give her of what our percentage is. In October of last year, we did not meet the criteria. We were not at 50% or higher. So,
okay, do we have concerns of what snack certain children can have because of allergies?
the school should have that.
Okay,
The school should have that with their food program for the school lunches.
how about board members? You got snacks for board members?
You wanna come ride on a bus?
No, they're trying to get me to drive one. I'm going,
By all means, you come ride on a bus, I'll make sure you have a snack.
You know where we're at.
So,
He's trying.
We're real close to 50 every year. So that's the problem. We're having trouble getting, I'll just make this announcement. I think everybody ought to turn in the free and reduced lunch form, because we're seeing a general decline in the number of students that, parents are turning that in. They turn it in, we qualify for more title funds. We also qualify for things like this. If we could get consistently over 50%, we could also qualify and, be able to apply for free lunch for everybody.
Yes.
So the whole district. Since we've been right on that edge, it was one of the first things I looked at when I came here. We just have not been able to break
we've
that
not pushed
barrier.
it enough.
Yeah, no, we've pushed it. We pushed it. We asked people.
For the parents to return the,
Oh, no, we do. I sent it all to them in a mailing last year.
Well,
Yeah,
we were
they get it.
talking about potentially doing something to try to help
Yeah,
people, because it's a complicated form, it's overwhelming, you get
Yeah.
bombarded with all the beginning of the school year paperwork, and it gets tossed to the side, and,
There's a lot of pride there too.
yes.
exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
yeah, I think that's probably a lot of it.
there is a cultural issue that, hey, I'm gonna take care of my own, and that, I understand that. But
Could I introduce something, when they come in for the registration, whether it's elementary, whether it's junior high or the high school, and I know what we've done in other districts is that paperwork for them to fill out for the free and reduced lunches, that is there on
That's
when they
available.
come and register.
We get it that's when we receive that paperwork, but people can't really fill it out there because you really need your tax return and other things, like income information. But we did discuss trying to have something set up at some point where people could come in, bring their information and have help
To fill it
to
out.
fill it out.
our principals are looking at the back-to-school bash to see what they can do to assist some of those parents, and they're working on plans for that coming into this school year.
Is it something that we need to introduce maybe at the end of the school year? Rather than at the beginning of the year when they're bombarded, like you said, Ashley, with all this paperwork that they have to fill out?
I can help you with that a little bit, since I did free and reduced lunch for 17 years. You can't do that, the form has to be of the current school year, which doesn't come out until the summer.
But we do wanna do some sort of campaign, sort of something, to try to get people to fill it out.
I think it's a great deal for a snack for these kids, because everything you said there, they eat, some of them at 10 or 10:30 or 11 o'clock, and then I've got a grandson, he'll leave them out of house and home when he gets to go eating in there. Because, he is an eating machine,
And I
and
wanna
he's
tell
gotta
you-
have snacks.
And those of you with kids, you know this, we get them on the bus and they're hungry, they're not in a real good mood. So.
Angry.
Yeah, so when we get them on the bus, and a lot of their behavior issues, they're hungry, they're thirsty. It could be a million and one things, but that is a good contributing factor of why they're behaving like they are, because they're hungry.
Good point.
Anybody else have anything? Well, thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
work on it. We'll get with our building administrators and see if we can
Okay, Okay, and I have all the information ready when you guys get the information.
See if we can make something happen.
All right,
Thank you, Neil.
So next up, we got our vacation programs. Ms. Fisher, you're up first. Business.
I don't want to take up a whole lot of your time. You guys got the presentation ahead of time, so if you have any questions. Total enrollment this year, 150. Obviously, most of them are high school. I have 2 sections, middle school. But I will say I had 85% of the class of 2024 come through my business department at some point in time, whether it was a freshman or a senior. So I did see a majority of our senior class at some time. The classes that I offer, computer applications, Business Tech 1, Business Tech 2, business management, graphic design is our journalism class, so the yearbook class, and then the junior high business expo. So our computer applications, again, it's just strictly your Word, your Excel, your PowerPoint. A lot of people ask, why are we even teaching that when we have Google? Number one, I'm old school, and I feel like that it's important for these kids to learn. Number two, I've learned that a lot of your state departments don't use Google because of the security issues. So they need to have that Word and PowerPoint and Excel experience. So I like to teach it. It's a lot of fun. Business Tech 1 and 2 are a lot of projects. Business Management, that is the class that I do a lot of our t-shirts in. That is a fundraiser for FBLA, but it's also them coming up with designs, putting it out to the community. They actually make it. TRA, we've done a lot of TRA shirts. So you'll see a lot of our shirts in the community, and the kids really do enjoy it. Equipment, nothing has really changed too much. I will say this year we did get a, FBLA purchased a new poster printer. So it's 2 foot wide, and the good thing about this one, which we're hoping to use some next year, is it will print outdoor banners now. So we can, if I get the correct paper, so that should hopefully save maybe us in the athletic department. Instead of outsourcing it, we should be able to design it and print it instead of just designing it. So we're excited about that. 33 members this year. My numbers are small. It's a rough year for me. We didn't get a whole lot of activities for FBLA like I would like to. We took 22 members to our district contest. Ignore the word virtual there, it's like Dr. Rob got a base there. But the district contest, out of those 22, we had 10 that advanced to state, and out of those 10, we have 5 that are actually going on to nationals, so we leave on Friday morning. So I'm taking those 5 to Orlando. Carson's over there somewhere, so she's going with me. So I'm excited about that. It's an experience. Out of those 5 going, I have 3 that have never flown before. So it's a lot of fun to see these kids get to step outside of their little Tipton rural world and experience what it's like to go to another state and get to fly and have that kind of fun. And out of our district, we do have 3 of our 6 district officers, so I'm proud of that. One of those is our parliamentarian, and that is, they get that position strictly by having the highest score out of the district on the party test. So, and again, that is Ms. Carson. So that is our FBLA. Yearbook, I pride myself on this. Our yearbook, again, last year, for the 3rd year in a row, we won the Gallery of Excellence. So I'm hoping we can do that again this year. We don't sell a lot of yearbooks. I don't really know why we push it. We just don't sell a lot. I don't think it's like it used to be where we get our yearbooks and have everybody sign it. It's just changed a lot. So we only sell 50 yearbooks, but our income does come from selling ads. Again, we do have, Coach Duke mentioned, we have a very giving community, and our community does provide by buying those ads for our yearbook. We create the sports programs that you see at all of the sporting events for every season. So again, the Booster Club, we work with them on that, and they help us out there. We get royalty fees from Interstate, and then of course our yearbook sales. So this year our editor was Katie Stockwell, and I'm looking at having 2 juniors next year who will step into the role of editor, so I'm super excited. And I think it'll be another good year for us. My goal is always to increase FBLA membership, promote online school presence by using student designs. A lot of the designs that you guys see that go onto Facebook, whether it be game day posts or just little advertisements for whatever it may be, are typically designed by a student or myself. If it's done by me, I will always have student input on that. But your game day posts, which are usually the big thing, those are all student driven. And again, I pride myself on that with that department. The kids have fun doing it. They're the ones in charge of taking the pictures. They like to call it media day. They have all of the sports come in and they take their pictures, and then they get to come up with a design or whatever they may want for each season. So that's good. And then of course, I would like to increase our yearbook sales. It's a hard sell for some reason. We actually have a very cheap, I hate to use the word cheap, inexpensive yearbook compared to those around us. Our yearbook rep is always shocked at the price of ours compared to some of the schools our size. But I try to keep it low so that we can sell them, because I do want to get them into the hands of the kids. So, any questions about my department?
No.
Okay.
I got one real quick. Oh, go ahead there. Ms. Fisher, since you all got the new prayer, have you thought about like reaching out to the community, make banners for community
Not,
businesses?
I have not this year. Now, when we first got it, I don't know, a few years back, we did have some businesses that reached out to me knowing that we could do it. But since we got a new one, I may throw that out there again, just letting businesses know. Because it's good for these kids to have that experience, to work with the businesses, design it, correct things that they, maybe want to change, and just to get to work hand in hand with the community. So I probably will put it back out, especially since we have the ability to print for outdoor banners.
So would you be able to do like the booster club ones? Can you do that size?
Well,
Because we would have you guys do the design, but then we always got them printed somewhere else, so.
when you say the booster club, you mean
Like
the,
for football field and stuff?
or
is
no,
that too
those
big?
are too big. Yep. Mine all only go 2 foot wide. Yeah. So,
Glue them together.
do what?
Glue them together.
Well, I've done that in the past, so, but not with an outdoor paper, we wouldn't be able to do that, so. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Fisher.
Thank you.
Who's next? Ms. Bailey.
I think he's still en route.
I feel like I need a step stool to be over the podium. Are we ready for me to begin?
Leave it.
I have asked Logan Petrie to come with me tonight. He is not only going to be our president for our Tipton chapter this coming year, but he was also representing us at the state level last year. He was our District 5 vice president, and then he ran for a state office position for this upcoming year, and he was elected as our vice president of advocacy. And I take great pride, because since I have been the DECA advisor at Tipton, I think this makes my 15th Tipton person represented at the state level. So I'm very, very proud of what Tipton is representing. But it's because of the students we produce and all vocational programs and everything that they do. So you got my report, but my presentation, I'm just highlighting some big points for us in our program. I'm so used to doing the laptop. When I say that it's 147, that is just high school students. You can add about 40 to that for the junior high. That is, I have 77 DECA members, and when I say 73 are the ones that are in my courses, it's because Missouri DECA sets a rule that you cannot compete in DECA at the district, state, and national level unless you're in a marketing class. And so I open it up for others to join, and I did have 4 that could not fit it in their schedule to join this year, but I do have 73, which is 50% of my student enrollment. So I'm really excited that I have so many students that decide to participate and do what they can. I'm very fortunate because of that. I have about 40% of the people that come to our activities and do a lot of the fun stuff as well as compete, and we'll get to that. We attended the Fall Leadership Conference, and that this year it was at Tantera, and Logan, that's where he ran for the District 5 Vice President, so I'm gonna let him share his process with you.
So with the Fall Leadership Conference, it gives us students, mainly the most elite students within Tipton DECA, the opportunity to go to a lot of leadership workshops and be able to learn more about how to better our leadership within DECA. For me, when I ran for District 5 Vice President, what I had to do, I had to take an online test to see if I would be able to qualify for this, and then in front of the entirety of District 5, give a speech on why DECA is so important to me. I think this Fall Leadership Conference is extremely important to us students just because it gives us the opportunity to learn what we can do in DECA, whether it's running for a state office or just being able to go to ICDC and better our competition skills.
So a community service that we did is we teamed up with the volleyball team, and they hosted a pink out event during the Lincoln versus Tipton game, so Battle of the Cards. And our Vice President of Community Service, which is my daughter, Charlie, was on the volleyball team, and I said this is a great way for Tipton DECA to be part of it. So we put together a silent auction to raise money, and we sought out donations for that, and we were able to raise $880 for Hannah Ashley's mom, who is fighting breast cancer. So I was very, very proud of how quickly everybody put that together to help support a cause. Logan, I'm going to let him talk about it. Since he was elected as District 5 Vice President, he was able to go with the rest of the state officers and participate in a legislature breakfast.
So this event is extremely important for us scholarly organizations, not just DECA. What we do is we go to the Capitol for one day and we communicate with the various legislators there on the floor. As you can see, I was there along with another fellow Tipton student, Caden, and a few other DVPs and the rest of the officer team. What we do is encourage various legislators to sign up to the DECA board, which allows our pretty much legislators to be able to be recognized by Missouri DECA that they support our organizations. We give them donuts there to give them more support to be on our organization, and we give them stats to show them why DECA is so important. For us DVPs, what we also do is we run around to a lot of people that are already on the board, and we thank them for the hard work that they've done for us. And then the most big thing we do is we go onto the floor while they're at one of their meetings, and the state officers, which this year was Katie Stockwell, gets to be recognized for their hard work and get to have a signed document by all the legislators as a thank you for us coming down there.
This year, the Tipton DECA chapter, I filled out an application, University of Missouri. There is the Rockbridge DECA advisor puts together and works with University of Missouri to do an ADSU challenge, and it's the School of Journalism and Strategic Communication. And you can only 10 schools are selected, so I filled out an application, and I think this is their second year of doing it, and we were selected. And when we got there, really the teams are made up of just seniors, and what we try to look for is students that are interested in marketing or going somewhere in the business field. We actually had 2 seniors, Caden Stockwell and Ashley McCoy, Logan Petrie as our junior, and then I had 2 sophomores this year, Miley McDonald and Nicholas Wolf, that have all kind of expressed some type of interest in the marketing at that time. So I filled out an application, we got selected. What was really cool about this experience is we got to hear about the journalism and how it works with strategic communication. Is not really the marketing, they have a marketing degree, but they're kind of working more together because it's all strategy to win over businesses. What was really cool is they have a team that was working with a sports business that had put together an ad campaign, and we got to see and hear their sales pitch of what they were going to be presenting to the board of this business company or the sports company. So the kids got to see it in live action, and I will let Logan explain what they did as a team to compete in this AdZoo challenge.
So what us students did is we're giving a paper on an ad campaign that a fake business wants us to do, and we go in a room for 1 hour and discuss an ad campaign that we have to make a PowerPoint for it, various sketches for it, We had to do a lot just in 1 hour, and then after that, we go onto the floor in front of some of these students at the School of Journalism, and we give our ad campaign to them. Out of the 10 schools, we're judged, and we get awards, and Tipton was very thankful. We got the Team Champion Award and the Best Tactics Award there.
And there were only 4 awards given, and we walked away with 2 of them. So I was very, very proud of the students. For our district competition, we had 47 district competitors. This is my largest year that I've had, so that's 61% of my chapter. I like doing all the fun activities with my kids in the local, but where I take pride is in competition, because that's where students take what they've learned from the classroom, apply it to real life business scenarios. They're having to interact, talk to business professionals, have that face-to-face communication, think on the spot, preparation. So I take great pride when I can get so many kids just to take a chance at doing it. So I had 47 that competed at districts, and then 25 actually qualified for state competition, which was 53% of my district competitors. And Logan also ran for his state office there at that competition. And then Caden was represented because he was the vice president of communications this year, so he played a big role in preparing the conference. On stage, we had 10 competitors recognized out of those 25. So we had finalists. Caden was a finalist in hospitality and tourism professional selling. He put together a presentation and had a test. Madeline Edwards and Savannah Cruz, which are sophomores, they did a business research paper, and they were recognized as top 10. Raylan Wilfong, which is a sophomore, she was recognized in the top 10 for hospitality and tourism research. Charlie Bailey Jr., she did a community service project, a community giving, and what we did is she did some research, and she found that a lot of children have anxiety when they go to the hospital, and it's really hard to treat. And so she presented this idea to the officers at the beginning of last year, and they were all on board with it. So we decided to put together creative courage boxes, is what she decided to call them, where we got together arts and crafts. So we had coloring books, activity books, stickers, colors, markers, and we put in a box and put a little note with it and delivered to children at St. Mary's Hospital. So we have the boxes together. We're gonna deliver as an officer group, or in my room, but we're gonna deliver to an officer group this August when we meet. So we were able to get 83 boxes put together. Who qualified for international conference in Anaheim, California was Jackson Bailey and Logan Oldham. They got 4th place in the sales project. They did it over our vending machine, which I'll talk about the success of that. And they also performed well enough at the international level that they received Award of Excellence. Miley McDonald went as a leadership delegate. And then Caden was representing us as the Missouri Vice President of Communications. And Logan went as our newly elected Missouri Vice President of Advocacy. So I'll let him talk about his process of getting elected, and then what he did at our Anaheim conference as an officer.
So essentially the election process was very similar to my district process. Essentially I had to take a test that was much harder than the first one I took to see if I would be able to qualify to be one of our officers. Then I had to do a virtual interview with a few of the higher ups at Missouri DECA to see if they think I'd be able and willing to be qualified. Then I had to go on the floor 2 times with a presentation so I can show the fellow students that were voting and that weren't voting why I should be their next Vice President of Advocacy. Then I had another meeting with a few of the higher ups so they could see what I have to offer that say maybe some of the other Vice Presidents of Advocacy don't have to offer. Then the top 3 are chosen to give a speech on stage, as you can see in the bottom picture right there. And then the students vote on who they want to be their next Vice President of Advocacy, which was lucky enough to be me. At ICDC, me and Caden didn't compete. Instead, we went to vote on the international DECA officers. So with the rest of Missouri, our DVPs, our new state officers, and our past state officers, we had to vote on our Central Region Vice President and the President of International DECA. So we had to make a big decision. We communicated with a lot of them, had meetings with them, and we got to see all the speeches they got to do. So me and Caden had to do a lot of work there, and it was a great role just to see what all goes into DECA for these students that have really taken much further with their careers than they probably ever thought they could.
Logan's being very modest. When he was on that stage, there were 2,000 people listening to him. He was given his question just earlier that afternoon. You get 1 minute to say it, and he nailed it, and I'm telling you, 2,000 people were roaring and cheering for him. So I wanted to put his speech on there, but I don't want it to go too long, but he did outstanding. I was so proud of him, like he was my own child. I was so proud. This is what Logan's gonna be doing this year. Some of his roles, they're meeting, he's actually getting to go on a trip this summer with the officers and some training, but these are some of the things that he knows of right now. His role will definitely build as the year goes on.
So the biggest thing the Vice President of Advocacy does, as I stated earlier, that I attended, I have to run the legislative day and breakfast at the Capitol. So I have to communicate with all the legislators that we're going to be there, make sure we get as many as we can to sign on to that DECA board. I have to communicate with the DVPs and the officer team about what they need to do. And I have to go into certain meetings with these legislators so they can see the importance of Missouri DECA, not just for Tipton, but for the state as a whole. Next, I have to help run fall leadership workshops, so I have to help teach some of the kids about the importance of DECA. And I also have to help run the state competition, not just by myself, but with the other state team. Like I said, I have to encourage our legislators. I have to work with the Missouri DECA officer team, or presidents or other vice presidents, to be the faces of Missouri DECA, so that's putting our face out on their social media, showing some of the schools within Missouri what we do for those students at DECA, and much more. And then like Mrs. Bailey said, I have to attend a conference in just a few weeks at Nashville to talk with other states about what they're going to do for their DECA chapters, so that we might be able to get some new ideas and make sure the Missouri DECA can be the best it's ever been.
So, thanks to the board approving us getting the vending machine. It has been a great learning experience for my entrepreneurship students. This was the first full school year that we had with the vending machine, and the students, the senior bunch, I only had 8 of them because it was at the end of the day, and a lot of them leave to do work release of who would have taken it, but it was a dynamite 8 group. We actually grossed in sales $13,218. We had snack expense. There's also the fee of having the machine in there that I forgot to put in that. So our expenses were $5,068. We do have a 5% fee for the cashless sales, which was $281. So we profited $7,869 that helped fund our conferences and some of our students attending these conferences, so they had to raise less money out of their own pockets to be able to go. What I was really surprised by, because keep in mind, this is middle school and high school students, I cannot believe that 43% of our sales are cashless. That's what I was shocked, that they have access to a card or their parents' card or whatever it might be, but I was surprised by the high percent that we have in cashless sales. What's really fun interacting with the students is them researching, problem solving. This year we kind of, we were told we were choosing healthier snacks, but we weren't checking like the nutritional facts. So we were told that we need to abide by the food regulations, so we looked it up, and these kids just got right on it, and they came up with different ways to find different foods, rotate them around, what's working, what's not, just hearing the problem solving. I was really hoping by 4th quarter they were running it all on their own. Really by the end of 2nd semester, they had it down. And they're like, we got this, we've got this. And when there was an issue, they're like, we want to talk to Mrs. Metter or Culpepper. They kind of took their own ownership in it. So I was very, very proud of them. And this is what Logan, Oldham, and Jackson presented when they went to district, state, and national competition. The outlook for next year, entrepreneurship, still run the Spirit Box vending machine. So the students that take that, we put a business plan together. I took some notes, did a SWOT analysis from the previous class, so they kind of knew strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, where they can improve it, maybe some threats they have. So they'll put together a modified business plan based off of last year's notes. In advanced marketing, we run the Candygram business. And I should have probably talked a little bit more about our food booth sales. I do a project at the end of the year where the kids, everything they've learned in advanced marketing, from deciding products, where to sell it, how to promote it, pricing, they put together a business plan and the DECA program They get in groups. Based on their business plan, I will loan them up to $50 to buy snacks or food. And for 1 week's time frame, they have their own food booth, certain times of the day they can sell, and at certain locations. And they get to keep a % of their sales. This is not for us to make money. It's a motivation for them to know how to run a business, overcome obstacles, maybe other competitors. It's a great learning experience. We have a lot of fun with it. So that's what my advanced marketing class does at the end of the year. I'm gonna be teaching accounting next year. So I'm researching how to do QuickBooks certification. I've kind of gotten some emails sent out to see there's this free program that I can do through QuickBooks. So I'm looking into that to see what I can do for the students so they can be certified by the end of the year. And then personal finance, I work with Mrs. Beshin and Mrs. Garber, and this is for the freshmen. They do like a real simulation, so they kind of learn how to kind of budget. They're given like a scenario, how many kids they have, what their income level is, what bills they need to make, and it's a simulation set up in the gym, and community members come in and help. It's a lot of fun to see how the students handle their money and the decisions they make. And then I don't really have our goals yet for next year for DECA because to me it's officer driven. I have a new officer group. We will meet in August. I lay it out there. This is what we need to do. What do you guys want to accomplish? And so they put the goals together and then I help them come up with the steps and we work together. So when you're an officer of mine, you stay busy because you make the chapter what you want. Do you have any questions for us?
Sound like you've been busy.
We do stay busy, but kids are my motivation and their success and their excitement motivates me.
Good.
Miss Bailey, I had students ask me a question and I had no answer, so I knew it was in your program. The kids that are on work release, is there a reason they're not allowed to rank in the top 10, like of a graduating class?
That would be my question.
They can.
They still can.
Yes, they still can? Okay. I had a couple students say something, I'm like, I don't know.
They just have to choose weighted classes. They just have to, the 3 classes they get a day or 4 classes, they just have
Okay.
to make sure.
Well, they were just mistaken.
All Bs.
Huh?
Can't be all Bs.
Oh, yeah, they don't need all Bs.
So I don't have anything, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, Logan.
Who we got next?
You'll have to excuse my attire. I was coaching T-ball before this. Maybe you tossed me into this. I didn't want to leave Billy by himself, but this is the annual report of the Tipton Ag Department. You want to flip it up?
Yeah.
A lot of you guys, if you've taken an ag class before, remember this picture that it's kind of a 3-circle model of ag education. You have the classroom and laboratory component of it, and then you have the component outside, which is your SAE component where students are keeping records over their projects. I know you guys have probably seen Dr. Rob the last couple of days really putting out sharing a bunch of our posts from our SAE visits that we've been doing. And then you have the Student Career and Technical Organization, which Carson is going to talk to us about. What she's passing out to you right now, that if you want that, that's a more detailed version. That's the annual report we have to write up. This is just the highlights of it, is all this is. And the back pages of what you have there is the advisory committee minutes and the safety checklist, which is a self-reported thing that I do at the very end of the school year when the shop is usually in its roughest condition, so that I know what I need to do over the summer to get it back to working order at the end. But I just wanted that out there for you guys to see. All Mrs. Twinner and I are gonna talk about is the classroom component, and then we're gonna turn it over to Carson because the other 2 components really are what our students do. So, what you can see here is our enrollment from the last year. This column here on our left, this 203, that's our total high school enrollment. That is duplicated enrollment, so students taking more than 1 ag class. All 7th graders are required to take ag, and then all 8th graders are required to take ag. They take a semester of ag. Moving into our 7 block now, it'll be a quarter-long ag class. That way, and I'll be teaching all the middle school classes, so I think I don't know how it'll be like 7th grade, 8th grade, or some combination or mixture. I'm not sure how it's gonna work yet, but we'll make it work. And then that way we can still keep 11 ag classes for our students. And another big change we made this year is we got a hold of Missouri State and got all but I think 3 of our classes available to be offered as dual credit now as well. So a lot of students that want to get that, want to still get that top 10 in their class, they can take it as dual credit. Now it's a weighted class, and now that just gives our students another option as they move forward. The biggest change you'll probably notice is it used to be they would take Ag Science 1, they would take Ag Science 2, and then they could take any ag elective they wanted after that. Couple of things, even before we had moved to a 7 block, we had considered getting rid of Ag 2 altogether because they were already getting virtually a year's worth of Ag before they got into high school. By getting rid of Ag 2, that allows our students greater flexibility when they go to enroll in classes. Now they can go ahead and jump. Instead of only having 2 class periods a day that are available for them to take an ag class, now there is as many as 9, I think, between her and I both. So that kind of helps us there. The portion on the right, this column here, we sent out a survey to all of our students at the end of the school year. These were just students that were in an ag class. And what the question asked is, what ag classes do you want to take next year? So if they could take whatever they wanted to, what would they take? And that was the feedback we got. Obviously, they can't take whatever they want. They have to take certain classes. So this is what we have enrolled as of, I believe, Monday, Jolene? Is that when you sent? Yeah, you sent that to us. So our duplicated enrollment, I think you'll find that across every elective with a change as big as that, has dropped about 26%. Our unduplicated enrollment, however, has only dropped 9%. So that means we were able to retain a large majority of our students. We weren't able to grow the program. But I had a mild panic attack on Wednesday of last week when I saw that we had 91 kids in ag and then they added some more, and I guess it bumped it up a little bit. So that made me feel a little bit better. Mrs. Twinner is going to talk about what we actually do in classes.
Yeah, so you're going to see here some pictures, and I think pictures speak a lot more than a whole bunch of words. So I'm just going to talk to some things. Classwork is really important to me. You're going to see a lot of hands-on activities that happen. So we are very blessed to have several different labs that we work with. So we've got a greenhouse, we have the football field that we actually get to use for our landscape class, and then we have a very well-working shop as well. And so with that, we also have hands-on classes like floriculture and food science, where Mr. Twinner has filled out some grants to be able to put in a kitchen into his classroom. And this past year, I was able to fill out a grant that we're hoping to hear from in August for $5,000 for floriculture as well. So be thinking about that, really excited, hoping that we get that. Floriculture last year, it was the first year that it was a year-long class, and we had a lot of interest in that. And it is something that the students have really enjoyed, and something that we can use in the district as well. So we made corsages. We did, and I'll show some pictures of that too. We made wreaths. We did a lot of things that were able to be used at homecoming and prom and different things like that. So we'll show you that. One of the things that you'll see here is our small gas engines class. They're tearing apart an engine here. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've got welding, and then here you'll see the food science class, hard at work as well. You've got electricity going on. Mr. Twinner is actually putting on an institute tomorrow where he'll be teaching his electricity unit to ag teachers. So one of the things with us is we have an extended contract, and we stayed very busy during the summertime. So with that, we've been doing SAE visits. We've had some professional development that we've hosted. We had ag teachers in from all over the country as soon as school got out. And then tomorrow, like I said, we'll have ag teachers in from all over the state listening to Mr. Twinner talk about electricity, and then I'll be cooking lunch. So that's what our day will look like there. And then here you're going to see some presentations that happen. We do a lot of soft skills. You talk to employers, and every everybody, one thing that I pride ourselves in the ag department, we reach every student, and I think that that is so important. We reach athletes, we reach everywhere from kids who are involved in band, cheerleaders, all of those individuals, and I think that's from presentations to learning how to use their hands and everything in between. This is my 7th grade class I had last year. I'm missing them right now. If you drive by the ag building, you're gonna see some weeds in front of there. I need to get out and work on that. But we planted all of the flowers out in front of there. And then this is also kind of an action shot out in the shop. Mr. Twinner was actually called and asked to build a chicken coop for the governor's mansion this year, which was a pretty incredible project that they did and delivered. I am CASE certified. CASE is a agricultural curriculum, very hands-on, very rigorous curriculum, up to standards, national and Missouri standards. And right here you're gonna see we're using some science labs, and they're looking at plant cells at a cellular level. This is my Ag Science 1 class, and then my floriculture class putting together cornucopias that were sold during Thanksgiving. And then this is kind of a fun one. Once again, Carson's gonna talk about SAEs, and this is a really good segue into that. Supervised agricultural experiences are the hands-on part of agriculture in our classrooms, and it's really where students are able to earn that money and be rewarded for that. So we kind of teach them the pieces that they then take and run their own businesses with. And so here, you're gonna see some students during that landscape class using that field as kind of that laboratory piece, food science class. And then this is in my Ag Science 1 class as well. My greenhouse is being used as a laboratory for an SAE for 2 of my students as well. Ready? Yep, and this is Ms. Carson, and let her have the floor. So, like she said, supervised agricultural experiences are our SAEs, which all ag students are encouraged and to participate in and have an SAE. This past year, our students had almost $800,000 in student income from their SAEs, and that's from working at like chicken barns, doing like on farms, but it's also just ag businesses who work, like anything can pretty much make it into an SAE as long as it's related to agriculture. So in order to make that income, students worked over 55,000 hours on those projects, and that just goes back into our community, all that money and hours that they put in. So in the summertime mainly, but all throughout the year, our ag advisors go and do supervisory contacts, which is going out and visiting with those students and see what they actually do when they're working towards these goals. This year we had a total of 213 contacts made throughout the year, and an additional 60 that were from prospective students, which are like 8th graders that are going to be in an ag class next year. For example, some of those SAEs include like Walker Carey here, clearing driveways of snow in the winter, and then Petrie aerial applications, which is owned and operated by Logan Petrie. He sprays fungicides and insecticides and fertilizers on crop fields around the area. And then that's me down there working in my beehives, where I sell my honey and chapstick to the community. This year we had 102 FFA members in our chapter. You can see most of them here. And they all come together usually at all of our events to support. We recently elected in April our new officer team for FFA. We're in charge of going, like we start planning in July, we'll have an officer retreat, and us officers will start planning and team building with each other, and we're in charge of all of what goes on in FFA. We plan all the events, organize for that, make our goals. So it's a big responsibility. Going more into the FFA side of the 3-circle model that we have, moving on from SAE. In the summertime, some of the activities that we do in FFA are Washington Leadership Conference, which is a conference that's held in Washington, D.C. Students can raise money throughout the year to go do that, and they get to go to different leadership sessions and see what FFA is more on a bigger scale than just here in Tipton or at the state level. This year we had 9 students go, and they got to visit with state officers and different leaders in FFA, and they made goals, which are called LTS plans, that they could bring back to our chapter for community service. We also have the opportunity to go to camp, which is down at Camp Rising Sun at the Lake of the Ozarks. And we have the Central District Fair, different county fairs, Montauk County Fair, the Missouri State Fair, that they can go show their projects and just what they're doing with their SAPs. They can showcase that at those fairs. Like I said, we have officer retreat where we start planning, that's in July. And then we have a summer meeting towards the beginning of the school year where we start more advocating for agriculture and trying to get more members in. In the fall, we had our first Alumni and Supporters Foundational meeting this past year. We formed our FFA Alumni and Supporters, and they now meet quarterly to raise awareness and money for our chapter. They also have had, they fundraised enough money this year that they can supply scholarships to our students in the ag department, which is really big because they supplied 2 different $500 scholarships to our students on their first year. We also have contests starting in the fall, which is Area Officer Leadership Conference and Rituals Contest. That's a contest that we participate in as an officer team. We participated in the Smoking for Special Olympics barbecue contest, and we raised over $700 for the Special Olympics teams at our school. We also had junior officer interviews, which is just kind of trying to get our underclassmen into that leadership position as well. We've gone too long, I think. Yeah, you're good. Keep going. In the fall, in November, we have national convention that's held on the national level with FFA, and we have students that can apply to go to that, and they get to go to different leadership sessions, see what FFA is on the bigger scale again on that national level, and see what their opportunities lie within it, and also explore Indianapolis, Indiana while they're there. Going more back into contests, our grasslands contest got 11th in state. That was our first main contest team that we had participate. And then we had area fall public speakers, which got we had 6 participate, in 6 that placed first or second in our area. I'm sorry. And then one of those also competed at districts and then got to go to state to compete in public speaking. We had our annual barbecue, which served over 1,100 meals. And then we had 2 FFA grant recipients on the national level where they received $1,000 grants that go towards their SAE program. And then lastly, in the fall, we had Shipley House, which is run by Walker Carey. We will go down to downtown to the Shipley House, and we did some landscaping and fixing up around there. In the wintertime, we had a canned food drive. We also had 10 state degree recipients, which they have to fill out an application for that, and there's a lot of qualifications that go into that. So it's a big honor to receive that because you get to walk across stage at the state convention. We also had 18 area proficiency award participants, and then 8 area winners and 1 state runner-up. During FFA week, which is in February, we had Tractor Day, our community breakfast, which is for the community, Top Golf, and then we went to church as members. And then we went, HiMax Academy. So that's another application that you can apply for as a sophomore incoming junior. Elizabeth Diamond got selected for that, and she got to go to HiMax leadership conference kind of thing. But it's more elite. Only 100 people in the state get to go. And then we had area officer selection in April, where I got selected by our chapter to go interview to be an area officer. I got selected as sentinel for area, which is on the back of my jacket, area 8 now. And then lastly, in the winter, we had our Tipton Aggie Days contest, which is held at the school, where we get, we had a lot of students. What was the number? 1,200 students from across the state came and competed at our Tipton Aggie Days contest. In the spring, we had 7 state qualified teams go from the district contest, and then we had the champion horse team at the district contest. We also had a state convention where we had, we were gold rated on the National Chapter Award, which is a big application that we applied for, and we were 37th ranked out of over 300 schools in the state. And then we had our conduct of chapter meetings team, they got 4th in state. Our parliamentary procedure team got 5th. Our horse evaluation team got 8th. Our nursery and landscaping team got 9th. And also Walker Carey got 2nd place in his proficiency for service learning, which proficiency awards are applied for from your SAE. Your SAE can apply for a proficiency award in that area, and he received 2nd place in that. Second was the area start and placement, and then we had our chapter banquet where we recognized all those awards that we received throughout the year, and kind of thank our community by providing a meal now. And then lastly, this coming into the summer, end of spring, we had our top 30 most active membership. This year we went to Arkansas and got to go to tour Arkansas University and see their ag program and like what we can do in a land-grant university outside of the state as well in ag. And then we went and toured Tyson Discovery Center and saw how they develop new foods in Tyson. And then we also got to see some of the natural beauty of Arkansas as well by going to some caves. That is all I have for you. Are there any questions?
Keep up the good work. Go back to slide 4. I'm just kidding.
Thank
Good
you,
job,
guys.
Bo. Thank you.
Next up's Joe Lee.
I'll make this real quick. It'll be the quickest presentation tonight.
Give you this.
All right, good evening. I'm here to give a quick presentation on some of the vocational data that we have. I just want to say we have some amazing vocational teachers, and you guys got to see all the awesome stuff that they've done this year, and we're really thankful for the help that they give our kids, exploring different career options and preparing for what they want to do, you know, when after graduation happens. So I've got some charts here, and you can see the numbers. I'm not going to read them to you, but they basically are the career clusters for our students after graduation. So we have to report this data to the state every year, and it just kind of gives you an idea of where our kids are going. So there's a class of 24. We have the last 4 years. Class of 23. Here's 22. 21. So one of the things I want you guys to see, and I know I flipped through them quick, but I know everybody's ready to get home. But one of the things that I want you guys to see is that every year is a little bit different. Our kids come in, and I know our teachers and administrators can attest to different graduating classes have different personalities, and you know they have different interests. Like for example, this graduating class, the class of 2024, we had 30% of our students went into the workforce right after graduation. This next coming year, the class of 2025, I expect to see a similar trend. But if you look at the class of 23, only 18% of students went into the workforce right after graduation. This year, we had more kids go into tech school and community college. Last year's group, we had several that went to four-year institutions. I think this year we only had 4 kids out of class of 2024 that went to a 4-year college. They went to the community college and used their A+ instead. But I just kind of want you guys to have an idea when you're looking at vocational data and, you know, all of the club data, it can vary year to year. I wanted to touch a little bit on the transition to the 7-period day. So the 7-period day brought a lot of work for Miss Beshton and I, and we worked through it. We started in the spring. We went into the classrooms and we talked to the students and the teachers, giving them information about the transition and what that was going to look like. We did their ICAPs, which I know when Miss Beshton talked to you guys at the May meeting, she did talk a little bit about the ICAP and what that is. It's an individualized career and academic plan, so it is what we work with the students on. When we go in, we start in 8th grade, and we say, okay, if you had to decide today what you want to do when you get out of high school, what would that be? And then it changes every year, obviously, but when we work with them, we try to help them plan the classes that they're going to take over their high school career based on what their plan is for their future. So we look at the ICAP when we're helping them choose their classes. So in March, we did the ICAP with them, and then we gave them the schedule sheet where they could choose their top 10 classes that they wanted to take, knowing that they were going to get 7, but we wanted to have alternatives in case we couldn't get them into the classes that they want. They listed the classes in order of preference. So when we were building the schedule, when we worked with an administration to build the schedule, we used those schedules, those course requests to build the schedule. Ms. Beshton put a lot of time into actually going in and taking a student like, say, Logan Petrie or Carson, you know, or Anna Crane, and saying, okay, these are the clubs that these kids are interested in. Let's make sure this schedule works for them. And so we did that with a lot of students and made sure that the schedule, we were going to make the best schedule that we could to help most of the kids that we could. So I talked on the ICAP, the process of the ICAP. And then I just had some quick data. So in Mr. Twinner, I shared this information with them, so our information should line up. But it gives you the number per class. And if you look at that, 70% of our students next year are gonna be in an ag class. I did not add the middle school students into my data, so his data, some of it was a little bit different, but 70% of our high school students will be in an ag class next year. And you can see the numbers, the class numbers. And then this data, so Mr. Twinner and Mrs. Twinner had data that they had gotten from their surveys, which some of it is pretty similar. But this was the data from the forms that we gave the kids to actually pick their classes after we went over their ICAPs with them. So you can see the number they requested, and on the bottom it says ag elective. Those are kids that were like, I don't care, I just want to be in an ag class. They wrote down ag elective. But you can see in most of the classes we actually have more kids in than they requested, and some of that came from the ag elective, the 15 that got ag electives. And then we have like ag communications. Some of the kids that requested classes, it wasn't possible because of core classes that they had. Business roster, same deal. And I have, you know, broke it down even into high school students served per educator, and then number of kids in classes. And like I said, I did not put middle school classes on here. These are strictly high school. And then marketing. So you can see all of the data there on that. But one thing that we will say, and we looked through our requests to make sure this was true, but we had no students that requested to be in a vocational that were not put in a vocational. Now, I will say we may have had kids that said, I want to be in 4 ag classes or 3 ag classes, and we couldn't get them into that many because they have, you know, their core classes that they have to be in. But every student that wanted to be in FBLA is put in a business class. Every student that wanted to be in marketing is put in a DECA class, and every student that wanted to be in ag was put in an ag class. if that's not the case, if there's somebody out there that says, no, come to us and we will work with you to make it happen. But we did work really hard to make sure that all of our kids were in the classes they needed to be successful and that they wanted to be in. So, any questions? I know it was quick, I promised quick. Okay.
Does anybody have anything? I don't thank you, because I know that's a lot of work for
It was a lot
what
of
was
work.
going on, but you know what? It worked, right?
Yeah.
It worked,
Work is
right?
good. Work is good.
All right, moving on, new business. You guys got that in front of you. Hopefully you had time to study it, look at it. Dr. Rod, if you want to touch on something, it's pretty.
This budget, just giving you the basic, it would choose, and we talked about this last time, it only has option 1 for the salary schedule in. It would move everyone to 40,000, and it's below 40,000 to take advantage of that grant. But it does not make any adjustment, option 1 does not make any adjustment, just to remind you, to those who are above $40,000. And this is the thing we ran into last time, when we first time took the 38K grant. I just want to point that out to the board, that you are given about a $2,000 plus a step for those that are below $40,000 on the salary schedule, some a little less. But you can also see the cost for each one of those. Option 1, just to operate the salary schedule, that's an estimate, because we may have some teachers that come in and have done some coursework over the summer. But 81,000 is what I'm estimating just to operate our salary schedule. And that's the new salary schedule that we adopted last spring. So you know, we choose option 2. That means we would add some additional money, add about $2,000 for those who are sort of make it kind of an even spread of butter there across the salary schedule. It would cost us, however, $173,000 to do that. Option 3 would say, well, you know what? The new mandate's coming, it's next year. We might as well go ahead and move everybody to 40,000, not take any grants, and it would cost us almost $250,000 to do that. That should give you some indicator of what's coming our way very soon, you know, and what kind of help we're going to get. But that would amend the budget again from what I've already put in front of you with that budget there. But it would be another $237,000. So it's the board's option on what you want to do with salaries. But what I would suggest you do is pass the budget, and then your salary option would be the first amendment. You say we're going to go with, well, honestly, if you pass the budget, you're going with option 1. If that makes sense. Makes it easy. You don't have to do 2 motions on that. But I wanted to see what the state was going to do, so it took a little bit of time to wait them out and see what they're actually going to commit to. I think we got the DESI guidance not long ago, which I had to read through to make sure we were going to get that grant before it moved in front of me.
Does anybody have any questions? Concerns?
Well, just an observation, I mean, I think it'd be silly to go to option 3.
Yeah.
I mean, just because of the grant in particular. That doesn't make sense.
I know there's been some community feedback that and some of it made it to the paper under the impression that we should take those grants. And I wanted to point that out. I'm glad you pointed it out, Phil, because we should be taking advantage of those grants. We're not in a position where we can't. And it seems like, you know, as the presentation I put in front of you today too is also showing that we do have foresight as a board and as a superintendent and administration to try to not let the community sink and to put things on the ballot when we're telling you that it's not the sky falling, things are changing. More pressure is being put on school districts to pay teachers a better wage. It's going on nationwide. You can see it at, here's a couple. You know, you've got Arkansas moving to $50,000 for a base salary. I think they've already done that last I read. And I read something out of New York, they were going to pay in some areas over $100,000 for a teacher, certified teachers, yeah. So it's coming around and it's coming to us. And it's not going to be easy if the state decides not to keep fully funding this gap that we have as a rural school district with a low operating levy.
because, I mean, we didn't want to vote for the dollar, so. That's my personal opinion, I'm 1 of 7.
With option one, where are we deficits been?
We are
Well, I mean, what, I mean, but like, what, how much?
on 75
75.
in Fund 1 and 2. It's down from 250 because your SAT has changed. It's gone up. So the state gave us a little bit of help. 67.
Yeah, 50 or something, yeah.
From 63.75 to 67.90, so you figure that through and you get a little more money per kid. That's why having kids is important too. You don't have a lot of kids, but you have a lot of teachers. That's not a real balance. You got more teachers than kids generating some of that money. That's why it's important to attract them here, guys.
What was kindergarten enrollment, 31, possibly more? Wasn't that right? And how many seniors did we send out, Coach?
Last year,
No, this year's graduating.
44, and we had 47.
47 grand.
We had
Our average class.
So hopefully we'll get some move-ins that'll offset.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Need some people to move here.
correct.
You need this next year for that.
The average class size that I saw last time was about 45. That's all the way across kindergarten to 12. We don't have that big class. We used to have a freshman class of about 70 plus.
Will 8th graders coming in gonna be a big class? Next year's freshmen, Joe?
It's mostly just the St. Andrews kids.
Yeah, it's like, it's gonna.
So
bump
it's
up
about
to
the
like
same as what we
48.
pushed out?
It'd be right around 50.
Yeah.
There's always,
As far as
there's
the
always
new kids.
weird freshman movement though that you can't predict. Like that year we had 70 in the freshman class that was the
I'm
20
sending it to you right
graduates.
now, Kelly.
Because we ended up having 5 move from here and we didn't expect 5 new ones, but right around 50. And our senior class is really small.
I ran that on June 6th, and that could change.
So option one is state required, option two includes.
Option 1 is not state required.
Well, that's the minimum according to our budget that we have forecasted right now, and then option two includes equity adjustments essentially.
Yes.
Right. We moved in 2023, what did we do in 2023 there, on the equity side?
We went on the upper end side, and we made an adjustment to our salary schedule to reflect basically the amount of raise that we were giving people moving to 38K. I'd have to go back and look at that analysis against Bo, but those raises range from somewhere around 2,000, 2,500, all the way up to 6,000 to 9,000. They were significant for our teachers who've been here a while, and brought a lot of expertise to our school. And they also made us competitive with area schools that are near our size in our conference.
Plus the teachers that were working on certification, that completed certification, they'll jump up to the
Yeah, they will.
38 or 40 now.
You know, they're already jumping up to that, and we still do that. If they're in a teaching position with a sub-certificate, while they're a little bit less than the fully certified teacher, I think they start at 31.5. But once they move, they go to the, wherever they are on the salary schedule, and then they get to the grant. The state's made our salary schedules a lot more complex. I've lost count of how many different salary schedules I've had to make to try to be in compliance or try to be competitive. Usually it's a one and done, you're moving on, but not anymore. So I gave you some options so you could see what you could do, what you're comfortable doing. You know, Bo had some conversations with me too, so I wanted to give you some options, Bo, because you were asking. And give you some costs. I think one thing I should point out to you is that in 25-26, it's state law, it has to be 40,000 and 46 for a master's plus 10. So right now, what they're doing is they're trying to figure out, there's no DESI guidance on this yet, on how they're collecting some money in a fund,
Don't know exactly how much will come in there, it'll be millions. And then they're gonna look at those districts across the state and do some kind of a disbursement. This is what's coming out in meetings that they're talking about. So how are they going to figure out how much they'll give to Tipton? So the prevailing wisdom is they're gonna look at our 24-25 salary schedule and give us some percentage of whatever they collect in taxes over the course of this year, whatever fills up that fund. And then they're gonna disperse it evenly with everybody somehow. There's no formula for this yet, and it's not really in the law. So how is that money gonna get dispersed? What's poor Lisa gonna have to turn in to show them what we're doing? The prevailing wisdom is, among superintendents and among our lobbyists and Mass and everybody else, is that they will look and see what was your 24-25 salary schedule? Where were you before you were forced to move to 40? And do some kind of calculation and figure out how much we will get. But they're under no obligation really to give us anything. They don't have to. If the economic downturn happens and they don't really collect a lot, they can do what they want.
Plus you're gonna be dealing with a new governor
Yes,
and a different budget.
yes. Are there any other questions I can answer or try to answer?
And plus we'll revisit, right, in October?
Yes, we will. We'll look at our budget, but you need to pass the budget now, so I know what I'm paying teachers. And we have to pass one by June 30th, even though, what a lot of people don't understand is, a lot of the things that go with our budget have not been decided. So, one, we have not received our assessed valuation from the counties, 3 counties, so we don't know what our assessed valuation is yet. We can guess that it's gonna be close, so that's what this budget does, it uses last year's numbers. Until we get the new ones, those will come in late July, early July. We cannot set the tax rate until August and see what our ceiling is and what we can actually assess. And we have not hired all the personnel because we have some paraprofessionals here tonight and some personnel to look at, so we haven't even hired anybody or everyone yet. And we don't know how many people exactly will move up on that salary schedule because they've completed coursework over the summer. So there's a lot of unknowns and variables that you have to figure into that.
So do we take a small step and go up to option 2, or do we just hold out on option 1 and hope for the best, or?
You can't come back and pass a new salary schedule because we'll already do payroll.
Pardon me?
You can't come back and do a new salary schedule, option 2. You have to do your salary schedule now because we're gonna start paying people.
So is the grant guaranteed money, or if we do take it, it's not,
All the
on a
communication,
whim?
all the communication I'm getting this year to be 100% funded and it's in the budget.
Then we're gonna get it.
We're gonna get it. We've been getting it for $38K for the last couple years.
But the expense on the district will be retirement?
No, they're even gonna give us some money toward that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some are all, you know,
I believe it's all.
that's good.
Yeah. And don't quote me on that, I know it's a lot, it's like covers, they're giving us some stuff as a benefit.
So districts won't be out anything the first year.
Yeah, we're only out,
And then the
we're only
following
out
year,
the
we're gonna have to do it
operational
no matter
stuff,
what.
sorry.
That's then the following year, we're gonna have to do it no matter what.
Yes, you are, and we don't know exactly what the state will do with us at that point.
And I think year by year is what we need to step into, and, you know, we know, I mean, if the grant's available and it's not gonna cost the district money, I mean, we could maybe, I mean, my opinion is let's take care of our teachers and retain who we have, and go ahead and be there.
And at least get closer to there, you know.
If it's not gonna cost us financially. I mean, that's just my common way of thinking. It's not gonna cost us, and we're going to wanna keep and retain teachers.
It's eventually gonna cost you.
Yeah.
What's it gonna cost us though?
I think it costs $173,000.
We moved right now, we got everybody online, that's option 3. It's about $250,000.
But that's every year.
That's coming up next year.
Well, I know that, but
Yeah,
you're gonna be spending that much more every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a one-time. The state doesn't know what they're gonna do next year.
No, they don't.
If they don't know your funding.
Right, we're not buying a basketball.
It would hurt other projects.
You can't feel it, the state's pressuring us a lot. With
Pressure or
teachers.
bullying?
Oh, you could say bullying too, I would agree with you. It's, you know.
Well,
your
I think it's a
local
good thing.
controls
Don't take it
can't
wrong,
go
it's just
away.
the approach that they take with it.
So I'm hearing around the table, let's go with the budget as presented, which uses option one. Somebody wanna make a motion for that?
Just need a motion in a second, that's where we're going.
I'll make a motion that we approve Dr. Rob's proposed budget
With option one.
utilizing option one.
So we got a motion by Kelly.
I'll say,
Seconded by Bo.
I wanna do option two, but I don't know, I think there's a balance between what you want and what is responsible.
All in favor, hang on, all in favor, hang on, we can come back to this, but we got a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand. 7-0. Now, back to your point, back to your point. The community had a chance to respond. Moving on, you're up.
All right, I'll move us into executive session pursuant to 610.021 to discuss 3 and 13 to include Mr. Culpepper, Ms. Thomas, and Mr. Wolf.
So get a motion. Motion by Bo, seconded by Ashley. Bo.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Ashley.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes, sir.
Amanda. Derek.
Yes.
Myself, yes, 7-0. Thanks, everybody, for coming.